right, well, Lauren, I want to thank you for helping me out with this class project and all that it entails. So why don't we just start? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your parents and so on.
Okay. I was born in Philadelphia, born and raised there my entire life, and my mom was raised Irish Catholic. My dad was raised Jewish, so my parents kind of blended the two traditions together. Is there more you want me to
Okay. Are you an only child?
No.
Okay. Siblings? Then?
Two siblings, older sister and a younger brother.
Okay. Okay. How was it for you guys growing up in that kind of mixed household?
It was fine. I mean, I always felt that I was Jewish because I went to Hebrew school, but at the same time, my mom never converted, but she was, I didn't kind of know where she stood in religion, so that was always kind of confusing to me, and I still don't really know where she stands with it, but we used to always celebrate Christmas. We always had a Christmas tree in my house, and I think that was more for the tradition, that my mom really loved that tradition. But yeah, it was fine. It was confusing at times, though, absolutely. And I'm really close with my mom's side of the family, who's all Irish Catholic, and a lot of them are very religious, but they never made me feel, excluded or anything like that. We get together for Christmas Eve, and it's always really nice. We don't really get together for Easter or any other holidays, really, except for Christmas. So.
Right, right. And so it sounds like you definitely take more to the Jewish side of things. You went to Hebrew school.
Definitely more comfortable in that.
So how was it when you were little, though, in terms of, which side do you think you identified better with? Did you identify better with the Jewish side of the family or the Irish Catholic side of the family?
I mean, I feel very comfortable on both families, but I think I do identify more with the Jewish side, just simply because, I mean, and this isn't anything against the Irish Catholic side of my family, but, pretty much everybody on that side is like blue collar worker, kind of, not a lot of them went to college, and got, or got advanced degrees or anything, which there's nothing wrong with that. But on my dad's side of the family, the Jewish side, there was more of that kind of like getting your education and, certain, careers that they went on to get. I don't know, I just guess I felt more comfortable in that environment. But just differences, not really like liking more than the other,
right,
liking being around more. But I guess I do feel a little bit more comfortable and more like I have more to talk about with my dad's side of the family.
Right, just in terms of kind of life goals, where people see themselves, educational standards,
but I think as I get older, I feel more comfortable on my mom's side of the family. I think when I was younger, I didn't feel as comfortable, but now that I'm older, I feel like I have, and that might also be from an age standpoint. I was always like the young one, and now I'm being considered more of an adult, so I think it's interesting how it's kind of evolved to now, so.
Any thoughts on kind of if things could have been different? Are you happy with where you are in terms of Judaism and things like that, or do you regret not going a little bit more into the Catholic side of things?
No, I don't regret it. I mean, I appreciate religion. I like tradition, being that I'm a singer and that I, sing in lots of different services and things like that. I like that feeling of tradition. I've sung in Jewish, Catholic, Methodist, Episcopal, like I like all of that different stuff, as far as appreciating it and feeling like that community. But no, in terms of spirituality, I'm Jewish, so I'm not like, oh, I wish I was Catholic. Not in that sense.
What sticks out most to you about being Jewish? If you have to think about, the traditions and the culture and kind of what it means to be Jewish, what sticks out the most to you?
What sticks out? I never thought about that. I guess the symbolism and the tradition sticks out the most to me. If we're talking about not cultural stuff, I mean, culturally to me, I don't really know, but if you're talking about spiritually, I like the fact that in Judaism it's all about symbolism and tradition, and you know, this, we do this on this certain holiday because it symbolizes what happened all those years ago, and the stories behind it. I love the stories behind everything. So I guess the thing that sticks out the most to me is with all the holidays and all the traditions, they're very deeply rooted in symbolism.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so the symbolism's nice, and the traditions, the high holidays, things of that sort.
Yeah, I like that. So.
Cool, cool. Well, let's take a few steps back. So where did you grow up?
I grew up, I started out, I was born in, I always grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, but I started out in more Albany, in Philadelphia, which ended up not being so great of an area, and we ended up moving to the far Northeast, in Somerton. So I always grew up in the city, but yeah, so that's where I grew up.
Okay, cool. So you spent most of your childhood and then teenage and young adult life in the far Northeast.
Yes.
Growing up in that area, was it, you know, predominantly Jewish, predominantly Catholic? Kind of, how was it for you growing up as a Jewish child in that area? You know, within your group of friends and things of that sort.
I always had a mixed group of friends. I did have Jewish friends. I had Christian and Catholic friends. I had, you know, Asian friends. You know, all different backgrounds. I guess that's because I grew up in the city, but I mean at the same time closer to the suburbs. So my elementary and middle schools were predominantly white, and I guess a mixture of Jewish and Christian. I don't know if it was more predominantly one or the other. High school was a different story. That was, you know, a lot of kids from the inner city, a lot of, but like I said, I always had kind of a mix of friends. It wasn't like, I was in a Jewish youth group, so I had a lot of Jewish friends from that. It's called BYO, or BBYO. Yeah, I had a lot of Jewish friends, but at the same time, I wasn't like only hanging out with Jewish friends. I've had a mixture of it, and being that I was involved in music and stuff, in my like choir and band and orchestra and stuff, I always kind of had a lot of different friends from different backgrounds.
Right.
So.
That's nice. That's nice. And you know, one thing that just came to mind, you know, you don't have that, you know, stereotypical Jewish look. You know, the dark hair, the more olive or Mediterranean complexion that's a lot of times associated with being Jewish. How did that play into, you know, you and your Jewish friends in Hebrew school in terms of, you know, your Jewish identity, so to speak?
It never played into, as far as in.
Or even outsiders. I mean, you know, have you ever been asked that question, or you know, has everyone, you know, when you introduce yourself, or someone finds out you're Jewish, has anyone ever said, "Come on, you don't look Jewish"?
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Never anyone that's Jewish. It's always people that aren't.
Right.
That are like, oh my God, you're Jewish? Wow, you don't look Jewish, and I think to myself, what does that mean? Like, I don't really know what categorizes you as looking Jewish. I don't know. I have a nice nose, maybe. So people, I don't know, because people think like a lot of Jewish people have big noses or something. But it's never Jewish people that say that to me. It's always people that aren't Jewish, which I kind of find not offensive. It's really hard to offend me in that sense. But if I was maybe more easily offended, I might be like, why did you just say that? But I don't really care. It's okay.
Yeah. No,
so,
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. What else? What else comes to mind when if I ask the question, you know, what does it mean to be Jewish?
What does it mean to be Jewish? I don't know. That's kind of a hard question to answer, because for me, I don't practice it. You know, I don't go to synagogue every week. I don't observe Shabbat. I observe the high holidays and things like that. So I guess that's what.
So would you say you're more culturally Jewish than religiously Jewish?
Yes,
in that
I would.
sense.
And not that I don't want to be more religious, because I do feel I'm a very spiritual person. It's just that my family doesn't really, so it's kind of like I'm sort of on my own in that sense. I guess being Jewish to me means family and being with family and loved ones, and you know, sharing in that with them during the high holidays. It's great to see my grandmom and my aunts and uncles, you know, my aunt and uncle fly in from Cleveland for Passover. It's
that
great.
together
you know?
time.
Yeah, so being together with family, and I very much enjoy that, and I feel very comfortable, even though I'm not practicing every week, I'm very comfortable with, you know, and look forward to those times. It's a time that I feel that tradition, and it comforts me, and you know, makes me feel good. So.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice way to look at it. Well, on a different side of things, have you ever experienced any discrimination or any anything along those lines?
Never anything serious. When I was in elementary school, there was this one boy that would always tease me and you know, bother me and stuff like that and make fun of me, and you know, I think he was just looking for any reason to give me a hard time, and I don't know, somehow it came up that I was Jewish, and he was like, oh well, I'm from Germany, so I can't like you if you're Jewish because I'm from Germany.
Right.
But we were really little kids, and at the time, like,
and he didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah, I think that he might have heard his parents say something or whatever. He's actually a really nice guy, and we ended up being in the same high school and stuff. It's fine. But at the time, I was a little taken aback by that, because even at that age in elementary school, I knew about the Holocaust and I knew about the history. And at that age, I thought, oh, Germans are bad or something.
Right.
So I guess in that sense, I was stereotyping too.
Right.
But yeah, that struck me, and I still remember it, so I guess it did. But never really anything serious, like as an adult, somebody being, you know, inappropriate.
Right, like outcasting you or not allowing you to do something because you're Jewish, nothing like that.
No.
Well, on a different note, along that same line of thought, have you ever been out with a group of friends or just out and about in general and overheard somebody, you know, making a derogatory Jewish joke, or even just a Jewish joke in general?
Probably. Nothing that I can remember right now. Yeah, honestly, nothing so significant that I remember it. I probably have been, you know, but I can't really recall it at the moment. So I've been out and felt like I was out one time with a black friend and felt like that we were at a bar and I felt like my black friend was being targeted. You know, somebody was saying certain things to us that made me uncomfortable, but I thought it made me feel like because, you know, he was black, they were targeting him, but never to me personally.
Right.
So I don't know.
Do you find that a lot in Philly though?
About Judaism?
No, in the situation with your black friend.
It depends on where. I generally put myself in am in situations where people are accepting of each other. You know, where I work, what I do for a living. I don't, or the friends that I hang out with, I typically don't put myself around people like that. But in this specific situation, we were in a bar in Northeast Philly that was, everybody in there was white, and he was the only black guy in there.
Right.
And some crazy guy just started talking to us and, you know, saying things like he was rooting for a team. My friend on the TV, I guess the guy was rooting for the other team, and he was like, "You should watch what you're saying in this place with who you are." Blah blah. It was a few years ago. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it made us both very uncomfortable, and kind of wanted to get out of there after that happened. So, yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't look at it this way, but even being Jewish, you find yourself in the minority in a lot of situations.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you find yourself taking offense or taking things like that a little bit more seriously, or picking up on a little bit more because, even though you're, white and blonde hair, you still, fall within, somewhat of a minority group?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you kind of, unfortunately, accept the reality of it, which is when you think about even holidays, what's considered a holiday to get off from school, you don't get off for Hanukkah or Passover.
Right.
I mean, at least when I was growing up, you didn't. Maybe they are more, I don't know. Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, two of the holiest days of the year. They don't take off from school for that. But yeah, Christmas and, well, Easter's on Sunday, so that takes care of that. But, you know, for certain Christian holidays, it's
Good Friday.
Yeah, Good Friday. So, you know, I kind of just accept that as the norm, which is sad, but it's true. And yes, I mean, there's certain things in life where you know, when you walk around in December, when you walk around different shops and stores, it's all Christmas stuff. It's not, there, you know, that's just the way it is. I mean, there might be little things here and there that I might think, oh, well, of course they don't think about the Jewish people and how it affects them, but whatever.
Right.
But it's not something that I carry with me day to day, like a chip on my shoulder or something. Sometimes I feel like my dad will get like really upset about certain things, and he might be more sensitive to it because he's from a different generation maybe than I am, where maybe it was even less accepted when he was growing up. But I don't know, I don't really worry about it that much. So.
Yeah. Do you think it kind of helped construct who you are?
Being Jewish?
Yeah.
Honestly, in a certain way, yes. It was definitely a way that I made a lot of friends in my youth group, and at times, yes. My bat mitzvah was a big moment for me in my life, being up in front of people, all my friends and family, and you know, performing, so to speak, and I'm a performer now. That was a big performance for me, I guess, and I always look back on that fondly.
On that same note, though, before you go on somewhere else, how was that for your mom's side of the family, for the Irish Catholic side? Because that must have been a little bit strange for them.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm just guessing, but for a lot of people, you know, it could have been their first experience in a situation like that.
That's why I love my mom's side of the family, because I'm sure they were uncomfortable with it, because it's not something that they necessarily ever had experienced before, but they were great. You know, I was only 13, so I wasn't, maybe now I'd be, you know, more observant of their actions, but I was a kid. Right. You know, I was just,
you were just happy they were there.
Yeah, I wasn't, you know, sitting there. I'm sure if you asked my parents that question, they would have a different answer, because they were probably more worried about that.
Right.
I didn't even think about it. And probably until you just asked me that question. Honestly, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, they're great. They were there for the ceremony, which a lot of people only go to the party. Of course, my whole family, my mom and dad's side, were at the ceremony. And yeah, that means a lot to me. It's funny, one of my dad's friends, his two kids came to the bat mitzvah, and they were Catholic or, you know, Christian. They weren't Jewish, and I think they were pretty much never exposed to anything like this.
Right.
And I'll never forget that this was one of my friends, you know, my dad's friend's daughter, so we became really good friends. And they wanted some of my friends to sit up on the stage, kind of up on the stage where all of us where I was going to be, you know, giving my bat mitzvah and everything. And she was really uncomfortable with being put up on that stage, and her dad was like, go up there, you know. And so she did. She wouldn't even take her coat off, like she just, it was frozen the whole time. And I remember kind of being a little bit hurt by that, you know. But that wasn't family, that was one of my friends.
Yeah.
But my other friends that were Jewish, Christian, they loved it. They were like, this is great, you know. Even if they weren't Jewish, they really enjoyed the whole thing.
That's nice.
Into it. So I never really encountered any kind of insecurity or being uncomfortable from my friends or my family. So.
Yeah. One thing that just came to my mind, though, as we're talking about that, do you think you're better off, or maybe, I don't know if better off's the right word, but maybe more well-adjusted because your parents were able to agree on one way to bring you and your brother and sister up, in terms of, you know, either just being Jewish, or if it didn't go that way, you know, instead of trying to do both, you know, kind
Yeah.
of just saying we're going to do this and follow that.
Yeah.
Do you think that played out to be a good scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how you could have a functional marriage if you can't agree on how to raise your kids. And my dad said from the beginning, as far as I know from what my parents have told me, in recent years, not when I was a kid,
right.
that when they decided to get married, they decided to raise their kids Jewish, and that was just what was happening. And my mom was on board with that. I actually heard a radio interview type thing where they're having callers call in. Mm-hmm. This was many months ago, where it was people of different religions talking about that same issue, and people couldn't really stay together if they couldn't agree on it.
Right.
So I think that in my parents' situation, they were very fortunate, and my mom was very giving and understanding, and you know,
it says a lot about your mom to kind of not necessarily completely give up on, but to decide to say, you know what, I'm okay with this, and let's do it this way.
I think my mom also isn't completely sold on, not to say anything bad about any religion, but I don't think she's completely sold on the Catholic religion. Right. I think she is, and I don't know, you'd have to talk to her, but from what I've observed, I feel her identify more with Judaism now than with Christianity,
right,
or with Catholicism.
Interesting.
I could be wrong, but I think she's very comfortable and very in her element in the Jewish side,
right,
and maybe not so much in the Catholic side anymore. Not to mean that she's converted in her mind. I don't know what she thinks. I'm not inside of her head.
Right.
But even in like the small family functions we do go to, unfortunately weddings or funerals, with the Catholic side, I don't see her as comfortable as she is on the Jewish side with different holidays and things, or weddings and funerals or what have you that we've done, on the Jewish side. It seems to me she's more comfortable in that element. I don't know though. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So that's interesting insight though.
Yeah.
And listen, I just want to say we're kind of getting close to the end of our time. Any final thoughts or anything else that you want to express before we end for today?
I don't think so. I like who I am, and it's interesting where things ended up for me, but
mm-hmm.
yeah, I still have questions about it. I don't know if I'll ever get the answers about how it ended up that I'm Jewish and my mom's Catholic. That's probably my burning question, is my mom Catholic or Jewish? I don't really know.
Right.
And I don't know if I'd ever want to ask her, but yeah.
But it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, so.
All right, great. Well, listen, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate your help today.
You're welcome. Thank you.